Hey, what's going on? This is Sean, and in this video I want to talk about the 3 most common questions people suffering from anxiety always ask. These are questions I asked literally on a daily basis. If you're someone who's recently been suffering from anxiety or someone who's been struggling with anxiety for years, the content in this video is going to be highly valuable because it's going to provide you guys the answers to your most pressing questions that are probably constantly going through your mind, addressing those questions so you can really focus on what matters, which is full recovery. Now, I want to be honest. Suffering from anxiety, panic, agoraphobia was by far the hardest experience I'd ever gone through my entire life. I almost didn't even recognize who I was by the end. But once I got the proper knowledge, the proper insight, it became the most enriching experience of my life. Recovery was literally the most, required the most growth I've ever experienced before. So the first question I used to always ask is, how do I stop these feelings from happening? How do I stop anxiety? How do I recover from anxiety? And typically when people ask me these questions, when I give them an answer right away, they actually are a little surprised by the answer. I've even had a couple of people upset when I give them the answer right away. And that's because they don't really understand the mechanics of what's going on in their bodies, why they're feeling the way they do. So giving them an answer right away, actually, they're not able to register, they're not able to comprehend it. So before I give you the answer, I want to take a step back and explain what anxiety is. And anxiety is actually pretty strange. Your body is phenomenal at protecting you. If it feels that you're in danger, it will instantly gear up for a response called fight or flight response. Here's the thing. It's actually really bad at identifying what's a real threat and what's not. So, for example, let's say you're having prolonged stress from work, or you're having issues in a relationship, or you're dealing with mortgage payments, or get this, and this is actually really important, you feel like there's something seriously wrong with you. Your body's not going to be able to identify what's a serious threat and what's not. It's going to react the same way. Over time, if you are experiencing this stress, your nerves become something called sensitized, which means it's always on. It stays on for a prolonged period of time. This is what actually really gets people in the anxiety loop. They deal with a stressor, and then their nerves become sensitized, and then they start feeling these symptoms, these really unusual feelings where they don't feel the same. They feel like they're sick, there's something wrong, and it gets them concerned, it gets them bewildered, it gets them confused about why they feel the way they do. So they obviously inevitably feel that they need to go to the doctor, or there's something inherently wrong with them. So they have to recover. That additional stress keeps them in the same cycle. So to recap, anxiety occurs when a stress kind of pushes your body past a certain threshold and gets your nerves sensitized. Once it becomes sensitized, you start feeling really weird, and you start feeling these really bad symptoms. These symptoms, the concern about these symptoms and the worrying about these symptoms, keeps you in that same anxiety cycle. So when people ask me, how can I stop this anxiety? The answer is you need to break the cycle of not worrying. You need to continue on living your life as if you almost didn't have anxiety, but you want to make sure that when the anxiety feelings come, you just essentially relax and you let the experience pass. Once you let the anxiety episode pass, you'll recognize that the feeling that you have actually doesn't last forever. And what really keeps people in the cycle is really a lack of patience. I always like to give the example of, let's say I hit my arm or bang my arm against something and broke my arm and got a cast. The worst thing I could possibly do is constantly bang my arm against something, because my arm will never ever heal. Anxiety is kind of the same way. You had a stressful situation that happened that kind of caused your nerves to become sensitized. And now you have a new problem, which is you're worried about how you're feeling. You're worried about how your body is responding to certain things, why you're more nervous, why you're thinking differently. And that worry is like banging your arm against something when it's already broken. It's actually not helping it heal. So the first step in recovery is to identify that you need to stop worrying about your symptoms. Everything about your symptoms can be explained So you want to break the anxiety loop by not worrying about why you're feeling the way you are, and continue on with your life, and recognize that these feelings that you're having, these thoughts that you're having, they're only temporary. They're only caused by sensitized nerves. Over time, when your body actually rebounds and recovers, and when your nerves stop being sensitized, you're actually going to come back to feeling normal. So the answer, going back to what do I tell other people, what I had to heal when I was going through anxiety, how I had to heal was do nothing. Continue on your life as if you didn't have anxiety. Recognize these feelings are going to be with you for a while, and over time these feelings are going to go away. So that leads me to the second question, and that typically goes something like, okay, Sean, I get it, fine, it's sensitized nerves, but other people also deal with stress. There's other people that actually also have just as much, if not more, stressful situations than me. Why is it that I develop an anxiety disorder and they don't? Surely there's probably something wrong with me. And that's actually not true. Anxiety isn't something that you get like a common cold. It's actually a condition that develops over time when you deal with long-term stress. So typically the pattern goes like this. Somebody has a stressful situation. That stressful situation causes your body to hit a certain threshold, which causes your nerves to become sensitized. Once your nerves are sensitized, you start worrying about how you're feeling, your symptoms, the irrational thoughts that you have. That keeps you in the pattern. Other people have also gone through stressful situations, but they may or may have not hit that threshold. Regardless of whether they have or not, they don't worry about why they're feeling the way they are. And that's really what separates an anxiety sufferer from someone that just deals with stress. They actually recognize that the feelings that they may be having are only stress induced, and once the stressor disappears, their feelings tend to disappear. But somebody who has sensitized nerves, their feelings remain even after the stressor is done with. And finally, the third question. Okay, fine, Sean, fine, I know what to do to recover from anxiety. I know that, I'm not unique in my suffering from anxiety, but how do I make sure it never happens again? And let me tell you, as someone who has recovered from anxiety, I actually have a firm belief that if you have suffered from anxiety, you're probably not going to suffer from anxiety again, because you know exactly what got you in that place, what stressors actually forced you to become sensitized, and you're never going to get to that place again. I always use the example that you'll be able to bend, but you'll never break like you did before. You'll have a new outlook on life. In the beginning of the video, I mentioned that recovering from anxiety was the most enriching experience of my life. It was enriching because I had a lot of growth. I was able to grow psychologically, physically, spiritually. Once you kind of have that growth, you won't stress about life the same way you did in the past. Because of that, you're not actually going to suffer from anxiety ever again. Even if you do happen to have a stressful situation or a more stressful situation, you'll know when these feelings come up, and you'll know what it means, and you'll know what it takes to break that cycle and come out to full recovery. So I've always said, if you suffer from anxiety and fully came out of it, and I mean fully came out of it, you're less likely to fall back in than anybody else. So if you found the content in this video valuable, please hit the subscribe button. Right next to the subscribe button, there's a bell symbol. If you hit that bell symbol, you'll get notified every time I drop new content. And feel free to share this to anyone you know who's been suffering from anxiety. And also leave comments below. I'd love to hear about what you guys have to say.